None of us lives in the real world. We only live in our perception of the world. And this is a central concept underlying cognitive therapy for depression. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is a continuation of our video series on understanding and overcoming depression. And in the first video of the series, way back, we discussed a model for depression that highlighted the interconnectedness of behaviors, thoughts, and emotions, like the three sides of a triangle. We talked about how a person's actions, their thinking patterns, and feelings all can influence one another. And so far, we've been focusing on the behavior side of this triangle, setting goals, developing healthy and sustainable lifestyle factors, building a social support network, and creating a depression recovery team. And all of those are really important tools and skills for overcoming depression. And so now we start our focus on the thoughts side of the triangle and exploring how our thinking impacts the way we feel. Now, I want you to imagine how you usually experience your emotions. Typically, we believe situations are what directly cause how we feel, our emotions. For example, I might experience intense anger after a driver cuts me off in traffic, or I might feel crushed after a romantic rejection. And my perception and understanding is that it's these situations that trigger or cause my emotional reactions. The person cutting me off in traffic, that's what caused me to feel angry. The romantic rejection, that's what caused me to feel really down. But it's actually more nuanced and complicated than that. This simple understanding of situations triggering emotions doesn't explain and can't explain why two people can experience the exact same situation and respond in completely different ways. It also doesn't explain why we sometimes grossly overreact to certain situations. You see, our emotional responses are not caused by the situation, but more so how we interpret situations. We react to what we think is going on. Now imagine one day I'm walking down the street. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. I feel completely calm, completely at ease, totally relaxed and enjoying life. Unbeknownst to me, they're raising a grand piano into the 30th floor window of the apartment building above me. And the rope that they're using to raise this piano has snapped, and that grand piano is coming down, crashing, and about to flatten me. The situation is one of complete danger and threat, but my emotional reaction is one of calm, peacefulness, and feeling at ease. On the flip side, imagine I'm in a movie theater, and I'm watching a horror movie. It's a really intense moment in the horror movie. A guy jumps out of a shower with a big knife and starts attacking someone. I react. My heart's racing. I'm terrified. I may scream. I feel like I'm in grave danger. But the situation is that I'm in a big comfy chair in a big room with lots of other people, and I've got a tub of popcorn in my lap. I'm perfectly safe, but I feel like I'm in complete danger. Now, sometimes people can experience different emotional reactions to the exact same situation. Imagine one day I'm about to go for a walk, and just as I'm about to leave my house for the walk, I hear on the radio that it's squirrel season and that the squirrels are out and they're foraging for nuts. I think to myself, it's probably a slow news day, and I go on with my walk. Now I'm walking down the forest path and I hear some rustling leaves in the distance. What am I likely to think it is? Well, I'm likely to think it's squirrels. And how do you think I'll feel? Well, let me get some warm and fuzzy feelings, imagining the cute squirrels getting their nuts, and feel like I've communed with nature. And so I go on with the rest of my walk, feeling lighthearted and happy. Now imagine the exact same situation. I'm about to go for my walk, except this time, as I'm about to leave the front door, I hear on the radio that there's a mountain lion in my neighborhood, and it's attacked a number of people. And so they're warning people to be really cautious and careful of the mountain lion. So now as I'm walking down the forest path, I hear some leaves rustling off in the distance. What am I likely to think it is? Well, I'm probably going to think it's the mountain lion. And how am I likely to feel now? Well, I'm probably going to be pretty scared and anxious, believing that the mountain lion is going to attack me. It's the exact same situation. I'm walking down a path and I hear some leaves rustling off in the distance. In the first scenario, I feel warm and fuzzy, commune with nature feelings, and in the second scenario, I feel terrified, like I'm going to die. So it's not the sound of the leaves rustling in the distance that's causing my emotional reaction. It's my interpretation of the situation that's causing the emotional reaction. So relating this to depression, it may be that the way a person's interpreting what's going on in their life is having a significant impact on how they're feeling, and it may be that the interpretation is what's causing their depression. The way you think about a situation has a much greater impact on how you feel than the situation itself. So let's say you get a low score on an exam. You might think to yourself, I'm terrible at this subject. I'll never be successful, leading to feelings of discouragement and feeling hopeless. However, another person might be in the exact same situation and say, yeah, sure, that wasn't my best performance, but I can figure out areas for improvement and study harder the next time. This results in feelings of being a little bit more motivated and determined to do better next time. So in that sense, our thoughts are the key factor determining how we feel. Now, to further explain this, I want you to imagine the following scenario. Suppose I'm in a relatively new relationship with my girlfriend, Jessica, and we haven't seen each other in a week or so, and so we set up a date, and I'm really looking forward to the date and seeing Jessica because I'm really excited to see her again. But just as I'm about to leave my house, I see a sticky note on my door saying that Jessica had to cancel the date. No other explanation, no other details. Now, there could be many reasons why Jessica canceled the date. Maybe Jessica got swamped with a sudden work deadline that she has to meet. Maybe she completely forgot about the lunch date because, she can be a little absent-minded at times. Maybe she was in a car accident and was seriously injured. Maybe she got a better offer from another guy she's been chatting with. Or maybe she doesn't like me and didn't really want to go out with me anyway, but just agreed to the date because she couldn't think of any way of getting out of it at the time. So there's lots of reasons why I could potentially think why Jessica canceled the date. Now imagine I find out the real reason at some point later on. And think about how I would feel in each of the scenarios. If Jessica was swamped with work, I might be disappointed about missing the date, but understanding of her situation. If she forgot, I might feel a bit annoyed at her, absent-mindedness and that, she keeps doing this. And so I might feel a bit kind of annoyed and frustrated with her. If she was in a car accident, I'd probably feel pretty scared and worried about her well-being and if she's okay. Now, if she canceled the date because she got a better offer from a different guy, I'll probably feel pretty angry and betrayed at her for rejecting me for someone else. And if she canceled the date because she doesn't like me and has never really liked me, I'd probably feel pretty sad and rejected. So you see, a person can have very different emotional reactions to the exact same situation depending entirely on how they interpret it. Now, in any of these scenarios, most people would feel the same types of emotions depending on the different scenario. So the problem isn't the emotions themselves, but more so the interpretation. So in our example, if I think Jessica canceled because she doesn't like me, the emotions I'm going to experience are sadness and rejection, even though maybe the real reason that Jessica canceled the date was because she got swamped with work, and she was just as disappointed for missing the date as I was. This type of thing is exactly what happens in depression. People with depression tend to interpret situations in overly negative ways, leading to depression states and feelings of sadness. We often view depression as a mood disorder, but it might be more accurate to think of it as a problem of thinking or inappropriate thought patterns rather than inappropriate emotions. The emotions are perfectly valid if our interpretation is accurate. But if the interpretation is wrong, the emotions become exaggerated and overly negative. Now, one key aspect that worsens this process in depression is that a person can get into negative thinking spirals. So going back to our example, after seeing the note, imagine that my interpretation is that Jessica doesn't like me and that's why she canceled the date. Do you think that's where my mind would stop? No, I'm likely going to enter into a negative spiral of thinking, where one negative thought hooks me into another negative thought and into an even more negative style of thinking. I might think, maybe she's going to dump me now. Maybe other people don't like me either. Maybe I'm never going to find someone who cares about me. Maybe there's something wrong with me as a person. Maybe I'm unlovable and destined to be alone. Now notice how the negative thinking is spiraling down. A simple note about a canceled date transforms into thoughts about being inherently unlovable and flawed as a person. Negative thinking tends to hook you into even more negative thinking, and the worse you feel, the more likely you are to think negatively. And the cycle keeps worsening. Your mood becomes a self-perpetuating engine of depression. So the key is to understand that our interpretations and thoughts play a critical role in the onset and maintenance of depression. But it's our thoughts that can also help us get out of depression if we can learn ways to think more realistically about situations and prevent these negative thinking spirals. This is something called cognitive therapy. And in the next few videos of this series, we're going to be talking about specific skills and tools that you can use to change these negative thinking patterns to overcome depression. So I hope you'll keep an eye out for those videos when they come out. And in the meantime, if you want to learn more about various types of negative thinking patterns, I'd encourage you to check out this video. So that's all for today's video. As always, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.